but what most athletes, I guess, it's probably not advertised as much, or when they're developing, they don't really see the full side of the coin, so to speak. Like, yes, you want to jump high, but landing is even more important than jumping, because it's all good jumping, but you don't want to land like an elephant. I kind of tell my kids, you want to land like a cat, like soft and under control. And what you said early on was so key, with regards to landing mechanics and the importance of how to put on the brakes, which I think is so key, so key. And
it's so important. It's
mhm,
so important. And understand that having that eccentric control within one leg will help reduce the risk of the Achilles
mhm,
tendinopathy and the patellar tendon issues. So it all
yeah,
ties in together. A lot of obviously injuries, you can't
yeah, for
fully
sure.
stop them. Some, no injury is
Mhm.
fully preventative. So when I say prevent injuries, no, we can't really prevent injuries, but
Right,
we can reduce
exactly.
the risk.
Exactly. And I mean, you've worked with Michelle, like both elite level athletes and everyday clients, which I love that balance. So what separates those who make real progress from those who plateau, in your opinion?
Great question. And it's amazing. I love it because I've worked with all sorts, and the number one is believing in
Mm,
yourself.
okay.
Athletes that succeed, they do stuff and do things that I ask them to do. They're unsure whether sometimes it's going to work or not. They're unsure whether they can do it, but they do it scared. So the athletes that succeed, they do it scared. They do it because they understand their whys. They ask questions. So the difference is they're intrigued to find out why they're doing it and will that lead them to success. And once they're bought into that, they are willing to do something they're uncomfortable with. No one likes to
Is
suffer
there
for 10
facts?
hours, 1
Facts.
hour in the gym. Who likes that? I don't like it. But when I'm in it, all I'm thinking is how amazing I'm gonna be afterwards. So the athletes that are okay with pain and they understand the why because they've asked the questions. And now instead of they've changed their mindset to this is not
Yeah.
good, this is painful, to I'm doing this because of this is going to be the outcome. So they've changed their way that they've approached pain. So for me, the best athletes are those that have the mindset of they see pain
Right.
as a growth versus a negative. And the second thing that I think separates most from the average everyday person, but no, I'm not talking about whether they're elite or not. I'm talking about their mindset because they could be average, in the gym, but they could be the director of or CEOs of companies. So they still have an
True.
elite mindset and they're leading. So I'm talking about those people. I'm talking about people that have an elite mindset versus, people that
Yeah.
don't. For me, the key to those people is they are humble.
Humble. Okay.
They not, yeah, they not only they lead, but they're willing to learn. Because, well, for example, even me at this level, we were talking about the podcast, and you're saying, you know what, you're a great S&C coach, well done. But I'll always be a
Here
student.
we go.
The moment I stop learning is the moment
Yeah.
that
Hmm.
I'm in my
Hmm.
grave. Because if even at 90, there's always
True.
someone that knows more than you. And I am a sole believer that they just have this thing in them that they constantly want to be better. And there's a fine line between consistently wanting to be better and then self-sabotaging and being like, oh, I'm not good
Mm.
enough.
Good point.
Like I'm
Good
never
point.
going to be
Yeah.
good enough. Because when you get to this level, you'll be like, oh, I need to be better. I need to be better. I need to be better. But at what point you need to also learn how to sit back and go, I know what, that's pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
However, I can be
Exactly.
better.
Yeah.
That was
Exactly.
us.
Exactly. And again, like, for, because I'm just big on the continued development of women's sport. So for female athletes specifically, what unique challenges do they face in strength training and performance, and how can they take ownership of their development?
A massive topic is obviously depends on the age group. So for girls that have not hit menopause, obviously you
Mm.
got the menstruation, but also there's a whole, when we were in the GB Maxis that we didn't actually get to, but people who actually hit menopause,
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
changes hormones wise. I'm not necessarily an expert on that. So as to something I would love to partner with or learn more with. but I think it's such an unknown territory for us. And I think it's imperative for there to be more
Yeah.
research on this area. We don't know. So I think one of these things are strength training, and they talk about luteal phase, and we talk about, training when you are at your strongest. So there's an area that which I think most SNC coaches don't. I've started to myself dig deep into these topics and help not just myself but
Nice.
my clients, but it's not something that it's
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
expertise at whatsoever. So it's just something that we
Right.
need to all be better at.
Right.
And for women's sport, and the second one is a lot of common is our what we call the Q
Mhm.
angle in women. We by nature have a wider hips compared to the knees, so our incident of ACL injury
Yeah.
is also a lot greater, whether in basketball, but mainly in football we see this a lot. And I just don't think most
That's
programs
true.
are helping. For example, the landing mechanics, the big part of this is the landing mechanics, and having tailored programs to women, bear in mind all of these factors. So for example, if even though we might not have a lot of research on the woman's menstruation cycle, you'll find by tracking their load that they might be, more fatigued than usual. So then
Exactly.
don't load them,
Exactly. Yeah.
at a percentage. I used an RPE versus the percentage. So training elite versus everyday person has helped me understand that there's external factors in your life. For example, the kids kept you up all night. So then you can't lift that 80% of your max
Yeah.
because you're fried. So you lift at your RPE 7. That might be 30 kg less than last week, but at least that will prevent the injury. So considerations like that is for women
Right.
really, really important.
And this is something that I feel like you embody just from your story, and even having you on the podcast now, just the overall energy that you bring is just the mindset, resilience, and you're just big on recovery. So how important is mindset in the process of building strength and performing under pressure, especially for hoopers who are balancing, academics, social life, and sport?
Great question. For me, mindset is a state of being present when you're under pressure. And you do study this in university. I studied in my degree. We call, for example, the arousal level is, for example, how
Yeah.
excited you are, i.e., how pumped you see this energy. So there's an inverted U, meaning if you're like really low state, you're not performing very well. Then there's this optimal, what we call the flow state. And then if you could over be excited,